On today's show, Laura Heywood interviews
one of the great voices of Broadway, Eden Espinosa, is here. Welcome to Laura Heywood Interviews. I'm Laura Heywood. Today's guest is a powerhouse, plain and simple. Eden Espinosa made her Broadway debut in Wicked, a show she was involved with for 7 years on and off, first covering and later playing the iconic gravity-defying Elphaba. She originated the title role of Brooklyn in the beloved Brooklyn the Musical, a role she played for the production's entire run. In 2008, she was tapped to play Maureen in the final Broadway cast of Rent, the celebrated company that was filmed for commercial release so the production could live with all of us forever. She recently returned from playing Trina on the National Tour of Falsettos. She's originating the title role of the Polish painter Lempicka in a new musical by my favorite composer, Matt Gould. And it was recently announced that she'll be playing the narrator alongside Alex Newell and Jessica Vosk in Lincoln Center's All-Star 50th anniversary celebration of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. On top of all of this, Eden Espinosa is writing songs, 10 of which were recently released on the gorgeous solo album Revelation, and she's getting ready to launch a new residency at the Green Room 42, an intimate venue for the show she calls Unplugged and Unplanned, where this incredible actress will let us into who she really is and will indulge us not only with some of her personal favorite songs, but with a special request section where she'll actually perform without rehearsal musical theater numbers suggested on the spot from the audience. I had never met Eden Espinosa before today, but I have admired her for as long as I can remember. It is a true honor for me to say, Eden Espinosa, welcome to Laura Heywood Interviews.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You have so much going on.
I know. It's crazy.
Like, how are you doing it all?
I don't know. You know, this industry has crazy ebbs and flows and ups and downs, and I've sort of learned in those quiet times to rest and be still and just prepare for the next wave. So that's sort of what I've been doing. And right now is a little bit of a wave, but I'm riding that wave as best I can.
I remember you saying in another interview, because I listen to every interview you've ever done to prepare for this, because I like to know as much as I can.
Yeah, no, I love that.
That you used to think that being on Broadway was like, oh, it's awesome. You just get to do whatever you want all day.
Yes.
And then you show up, sing for a couple hours, and then go home. Best gig ever.
Yeah, how hard can it be? 3 hours a day? That's nothing. And then I actually did it. And then I got older doing it. And now I'm my age doing it. And it's really, really hard. But it was hard when I was 25. I just remember going, oh, I mean, I really had the realization when I was Adina Standby and just, really realizing how much work it takes to not only do the show, but during the day to prep and rest for that night and recover from the night before, So yeah, it's a very blue collar existence.
Totally. And I think people don't expect that.
They don't
They
at all.
expect you to be dripping with pearls
Yes.
and fur. And
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is more of a movie star life,
Sure.
I think.
Sure. And I don't know. I mean, maybe back in the day it seemed more glamorous because I feel like the people who did Broadway and TV and film were all kind of the same group of people. And now it's kind of a separate, you know what I mean? So maybe it was that more, I don't know, maybe more glamorous.
Well,
There were more, I don't know.
I spent, as in true Laura Heywood fashion, I spent the last couple of days organizing my collection of thousands of playbills.
Yeah.
And I found a playbill. I don't know where I got it. I tend to inherit people's playbills before they go in the trash.
Okay.
I found a 1968 playbill from My Fair Lady starring Audrey Hepburn.
Whoa.
And I was like, I didn't even know. I mean, of course I knew Audrey Hepburn did Broadway, but
right. I didn't know she did that on Broadway, though.
It was actually a tour playbill. So she must have done it on Broadway and then gone on tour. It was her and Rex Harrison.
Wow.
And there were two of them. There were two of these playbills. So eBay, here I come.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but so yes, I'm sure that she was living the. We all can picture Audrey Hepburn.
Totally.
So you're saying that you're not living the Audrey Hepburn life?
No, I wish I was.
Yeah.
No, maybe one day.
So that again begs the question, how are you doing all of this right now? I know you're not doing a show eight times a week right now, but it still feels like, You haven't started rehearsing for Joseph yet, have you?
No, we start on Monday.
Oh my gosh.
Or on the 10th.
Right, yeah. So
it's only a week long of rehearsals. And then, one night concert on the 17th.
So if anybody's listening to the free podcast version of that, that's like tomorrow. That's tomorrow.
Right. Fast forward in time.
Actually, no, it already happened.
Oh, okay.
The rehearsal started.
Okay,
the rehearsals already started.
Okay.
This podcasting is such a funny thing because I think sometimes people listen immediately when it comes out. We love that. And then sometimes people, maybe somebody discovers you a year from now and then they're listening.
Right.
Sorry, you missed it. But
it was amazing.
But it was so, rave reviews all around. I loved that specific part they assigned to you as the narrator.
Yes, me too.
But the people we love the most are the people who subscribe to DNR Studios because they're listening live and they can follow along in real time. We're going to get to your concert schedule because you've got 4 shows coming up. But I want to go back to talking about this 8-show week blue collar, like hard work / rest combo. And specifically about being the standby for a role like Elphaba. Was it harder in a way to not know when you might be going on? Because I can imagine that, to me, standby feels like the ultimate easy, quote unquote, easy gig because you just show up and most of the time you can watch Netflix in your dressing room and not actually have to go. But you also have to be ready and warmed up and physically prepared to do something.
That's absolutely correct.
Like you have to stay conditioned.
Yeah. I took my job very seriously, and Adina is such her stamina is unreal. Like she'll fight through even if she's feeling a little bit under the weather. Like she'll just fight through it, and so she didn't miss an actual show for probably the first year or close to the first year.
So you were just sitting backstage for a year?
Hold on, let me.
I made
my Broadway debut as Nessa.
And were you a Nessa
I was the Nessa
understudy?
yes.
Cover?
Yes.
Okay, but you weren't ever in the ensemble.
No. And
were you covering both at the same time?
I was covering both at the same time, but they told me not to worry about Nessa right away because
famous last words.
Right, exactly, because there were people there was Christy Candler covered it. And she was going to be, because I was focused on Elphaba, she would be the first to go on. Well, she was on vacation one week, and I had one rehearsal for Nessa, and I was on that. So I was on that weekend, so that I made my Broadway debut as Nessa. Maybe it was just under a year.
Well, I feel like that's a technicality that doesn't actually matter. Like it was a long time, right?
Yeah, it was a long time before I went on as Elphaba.
It seems like you would get complacent. Or not you. I would get complacent. I'd be like, guess I'm never going on.
Yeah, I just knew that when that moment came, I had to be ready. It was not pressure, but it's the lead, and it was my first huge lead like that. So there were things that I would consistently watch the show just to make sure that blocking hadn't morphed into a different thing, or there were certain things that I would do every so often. I knew that there was a big running component right before Defying Gravity and also right before No Good Deed. And so I would also go up into the rehearsal room and practice along with the show. And then I would run up and down a flight of steps right before I'd sing No Good Deed or right before I'd do Defying Gravity, just so I could feel what it would be like and not be crazy out of breath,
Yeah, that's so smart to go up to the rehearsal room and were you doing the blocking too?
Yeah.
Most theaters don't have a full-on stage
scaled
rehearsal room, but I've actually been in that room over at the Gershwin where Wicked is. So, did other covers come up and do it with you?
Yeah, sometimes.
There was this alternate Wicked going on in street clothes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I want to pay to see that.
Yeah. It's a nice asset to have up there. Just a room to, you could hear the monitor would be on. And there were things that I would just check in with myself every now and then. But of course we were watching movies, or we had a 5-block radius rule. So we'd go to the
Let's go get
gym or
sushi.
so after a while, at the beginning, I wasn't so super comfortable doing that. But yeah, it was fun. I actually enjoyed it. It was really cool at the time to be like on the outside, but also on the inside, because you don't perform every night. So you got to watch the show, with the opening night audience and stuff like that. But also, yeah, it was cool.
Am I remembering correctly that they asked you to come in earlier than expected, like to our rehearsals?
Yes.
So what was that about?
She tore. I don't know if she tore her meniscus. Is that it?
Yeah.
Or if she just was close to tear. There was a knee injury that they were worried about, and they didn't know how bad it was or if she was going to be able to do the show. So they just brought me in early, and they were in the middle of tech. And so nobody had any time to really get me going. I'd have a session every now and then with Stephen Aremus, or I'd just sit in on little side rehearsals. Every so often, Norbert would come get me in the audience, and
he was just here.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm so in love with him.
Have you heard his new album?
I haven't heard it yet.
Don't tell him you're so in love with him. We talked a lot about how how he falls in love with everybody.
Really?
I mean, he's so in love with his wife, and
Of course,
and
of
his
course.
his new album is full of love songs for her. But
I love that.
But he also just did this solo show with Sherry Renee Scott, where they got into a lot of detail.
That's
about,
what I heard.
Yeah.
I really heard about that.
Anyway, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We're promoting your stuff right now. but
yeah,
yes,
he would come
he's
and
hard
find
not
me
to
and
love.
run lines with me, and so yeah, they brought me in early just in case. But she's a champ, man. She was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll skip over Brooklyn for the moment.
Okay.
And you took over another role that Idina made famous with Maureen and
yeah.
Rent.
Yeah.
11 times you auditioned for
Yeah.
Rent? Wow.
Yeah.
But I would think by the fourth, again, speaking only for myself, by the fourth no, I'd be like, I'm done. They clearly don't want
by
me.
the 11th, I was that way.
But how did you not? How did you show up for the 11th after the 10th?
I just wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted it so bad, more than anything. Wanted to be Maureen in Rent. The first Broadway show I saw. First time I heard voices that, excuse me, were different than the normal musical theater.
Quote, legit.
Right. Yeah. And I just fell in love with the show and the role of Maureen, and all I wanted to do was be Maureen. So I just, I had no formal training. I didn't go to school for this. I was just winging it. And I was in for the same woman every time. Her name was Heidi, and she was
The casting
at
director?
Tulsa. Yeah, she's obviously no longer there. It was so long ago, but it was funny because I lived in LA and I didn't have an agent. So every time they would come to LA, they would call me in. That's how it happened every time. So many times.
Wait, how did it happen the first time if you didn't have an agent?
There was an open call.
Oh my God, so many people went to these open calls.
Yeah.
Leslie Odom Jr. got cast in Rent
Yep.
from an open call.
Yep.
So you stood online.
Because they were looking for raw, unknown, young talent, So yeah, me and all my friends in LA stood in line for, forever. And it was like a sea of pleather pants and rock and roll, chic, I don't know, homeless chic attire. But it was just so funny, looking back now. Yeah. But I remember that time after the 11th time, and they called me again, and I said, just curious, will I be auditioning for Heidi? And they said yes, and I said, okay, I'm gonna pass this time, but thank you so much.
And then suddenly they were like, you're cast.
And then-
Maybe you just need to play a little hard to get.
Well, it was several years later that I actually ended up playing the role, but
So when you finally got cast in the role, it was not as a result of an audition?
no, it's the one of two jobs I've ever gotten that I was just asked to do.
Oh, straight to offer.
Yes,
Girl, that's
yes.
awesome.
Yeah, because it was Rent had just opened on Broadway, and I was it was 12 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So I had done a bunch of years in Wicked already, and and Brooklyn. And yeah, I think it was.
So you were no longer the unknown, but they were no longer looking for unknowns.
Right. Yes. And I think it was a conversation between David Stone and Michael Greif, and my name came up, and Michael asked David Stone about me. And for those of you who don't know, David Stone is one of the lead producers on Wicked. And he was like, "No, I think she'd be great." And then we got the phone call.
Is it a good or a bad thing that you have a bare ass available to the world when you were like, Maureen is famous for having a perfect body, and now you like on the DVD, that's you forever.
It is indeed. And it was funny because
Maureen moons the crowd if anybody's listening who happens to not be familiar with Rent.
And what's funny is, like, when you see the show, unless you're completely house left, it's a side view. You know what I mean? It's not and I remember asking the director, because there were certain shots from that live taping that were done outside of that day. Like we did specific things on stage so they could get really close up on things. And I remember asking him, so what is the shot going to be for this? He's like, oh, it's going to be like a side shot, meaning like you'd see part of my cheek, but as if you were dead center in the audience. I'm like, okay, good.
Profile, if you will.
Yes, thank you, yes. And then I remember being in that theater. They had a special screening for us, cast and creative and crew, and I'm anticipating my entrance because it's like 45 minutes into Act 1, and then my part comes, and then La Vie Boheme starts, and I will never forget this. And it was not a profile shot. It was my full butt.
It was a full moon.
I mean, and on a movie screen, you can imagine, because also I'm Latina, so we got lots to work with back there. And I just remember going like, like I gasped so loud. My hands immediately went over my mouth, and I was just like, well, there it is. There it is, folks.
And there it always will be.
It will be forever. It is what it is.
I think it's great.
It's nice. I can be like, oh, there was my 30-year-old ass. Right. Wasn't she cute?
Well, I think that's such a lesson for when I just realized that I was like, I think it's great, as if I was talking about your butt, which it is.
Thanks.
But I mean, I think, as a woman, and as many women I know, we get very like self-conscious no matter where we are in our 100%. Lives about our bodies.
100%.
Like, if you told me at 22 that my naked butt was going to be somewhere, I would have been like, no, it's horrible. And now I'm like, I wish that was on camera somewhere, because and I bet that in a few years I'll look back at how I look now, which I'm super critical of, and be like, so way to go, way to get it captured. And
Thank you.
And also I think about how iconic that closing cast was, and how many people came through to see it one more time, or to finally see it for the first time.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe it was worth getting turned down 11 times so that you could come in and be part of that cast.
It absolutely was. Totally. Yes. I wouldn't have it any other way.
I love stories like that, because I know so many people who are on their 11th no.
Yeah.
And who feel like they should just give it all up.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to predict how the worst thing that ever happened to you might turn out to be the best thing that ever happened to you. But that is the one consistent factor in the people I know who are happy with their lives, is that they talk about and acknowledge the worst things that ever happened to them in a frame of what beauty grew out of it. So,
Yeah, it was funny because I had auditioned for the movie too. This was before like the original cast they were going to have the original cast do the movie, and I didn't get that obviously either. And I just remember saying to myself, I guess I'm not supposed to do this show. Like, and I sure there was this part of me that was sad because I just love it so much, but I was like, I just guess it wasn't meant for me. And then it just was not yet.
And then in between Wicked and Rent, you originated a role that like did and will always belong to you, which is the title role in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
I can only imagine how special that would be to be able to create something from scratch.
Yeah.
And record it and live it for a year.
Yeah. It was a long journey. I mean, that's the show that brought me to New York. So yeah, I auditioned for that show in LA and came here for a summer to do the workshop and moved to New York 2 weeks later. I went home and packed my stuff and moved 2 weeks later. So I have, you know, a lot of warm, fond memories of that whole experience and the people involved in it. And we just did a 15-year anniversary reunion concert, which was amazing. And
you produced that too, right?
I did.
Good for you. Like that
Thanks.
show's so beloved.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I actually, this week is my 15-year anniversary of moving to New York.
Oh my gosh.
And for my first couple years here, I didn't go to a lot of shows. It was like, it was pre my knowledge of things like Rush.
Sure. Yeah,
Except for Rent. I knew Rent did it.
Yeah.
And so so I missed Brooklyn. And unfortunately, I missed the reunion concert too. But I feel like there is this whole generation of people who feel like they were almost there. Yeah. And they just can reach back through time almost to touch it. And you gave them the opportunity to actually experience it.
Yeah. It's a funny thing, that show, because I think ultimately it was ahead of its time. I think if it was running today, audiences would have embraced it more.
Revival?
You know, people talked about that when we did the concert, and I mean, it certainly wouldn't be with me in it. Why? But I mean, it might be revived at some point. I don't know. I can't play that. She's too young. I just can't do it.
I know you've still got the pipes for it.
I mean, I could still sing it, but I just, you know, there are just aspects. There are things that are better left.
So let's Dreamcast it.
Oh. Ooh, that's good. I mean,
who are you obsessed with?
I'm obsessed with so many people. I think I could see, I mean, vocally, like a Natalie Weiss, obviously would be a beast. What's that girl's name in Dreamgirls? Oh my God, Eden. In Mean Girls right now. Is her name Renee?
Oh yeah, Renee.
She is ridiculous.
And she just came up through like she won the National High School Musical Theater Competition.
Yeah.
Later was in.
She's so good. Maybe I'd want Adrienne Warren as Paradise.
Oh yeah.
Maybe like Ariel Jacobs as Faith.
She's so fantastic.
And the guys, who could we have for the guys? Well, we had Quentin Earl Darrington as street singer for our reunion because Clavant couldn't be with us. So I would say him because he killed it.
So he's just moving straight over from
MJ.
He's straight to offer.
Yes, yeah, he's opera only, and he's already done his audition.
Right.
And then maybe for Taylor Collins, who would be? Oh, I mean, could we get Norb? Maybe Norbert. I mean, he could kill it.
All right, let's ask him.
Here we go with Norbert again.
I'm sending this list to Broadway World.
Okay, amazing.
And we'll do like title of show style, where we just announce that it's coming to Broadway with this cast and see if it
catches fire. I love it.
Brooklyn, what a special project.
Yeah, it's a sweet little show, and the music is it's so good, and it holds up. You know, it was nice to see people. And even people who never saw it that, you know, listened to it or discovered it later and who have like a lot of love for it, which feels nice.
So one of my favorite through lines from listening to a lot of other and reading a lot of other interviews you've done is this this arc that you've gone on with an understanding of your own voice or like a lack of understanding of your own voice, meaning you singing came easily to you. Like what we all hear as kind of supernatural did kind of come to you in a in a completely organic, natural way. No singing lessons, right? And then only after you were on Broadway and, you know, in the public eye did people start saying, how do you do that? And then you started asking yourself, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about having to sort of unlearn, et cetera, about how you do this miraculous thing?
Yeah, I mean, singing just always did come natural to me. And I was always involved in something that had guidance. So it wasn't, I was in like children's choirs and, and stuff like that all growing up. So I had guidance. And I remember my mom asking a couple of my like choir directors when I was a kid, should I put her in private lessons? And they always said, she's doing fine. Like, she doesn't need it. Like, they always just said like, she doesn't need it. So my mom, and my parents weren't those show parents that were really pushy or, making me do things that I didn't want to do or pushing me a certain way.
So you weren't lining up to play young Cosette.
No, and I didn't. And because they're not in the business. And when I was growing up, it wasn't a thing like it is now.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
it wasn't as accessible.
I was a performer as a kid too.
Yeah.
Not like that exactly.
You just did it because you loved it.
I also didn't. I was never aware that
Same.
I mean, I listened nonstop to my Les Mis cassette, but it didn't occur to me that like I could audition for it.
Totally. That's the exact same mentality that I had as well. Yeah. And it was not ever something that I questioned and not ever something that I doubted my voice. Like, it was just always there and dependable, and I could always just do things.
Yeah.
Until people started saying like, how do you do that? And I remember actually an on-camera teacher of mine here in the city, Bob Krakauer, that I got very close to, and his family. And I think we were I don't know if like I had a bunch of people come to see me in something, and somebody asked me that, how do you do that? And he goes, don't ask her that. Mm-hmm. And at the time, in hindsight, I know why, because it's like, then you start going, how do I do it? And then I just started getting heady about things. And I was never that type of singer. I was never that type of performer. And other factors came in of like, I was in a, for lack of a better word, a slightly toxic relationship that I let people's opinions and notes get to me. And I just lost myself, and I didn't lose my voice. I didn't have any vocal issues other than the mental stuff took over, and it didn't feel like me. Yeah. It wasn't easy anymore. It wasn't enjoyable. I started getting really self-conscious and insecure if I was singing live and somebody pulled out a phone and started recording me, which they all do. And I'm like, oh, and it's going to be on YouTube forever, and people are going to say I'm terrible. And I started just like being bad, not bad, but it just did. It was not fun.
It weirdly reminds me of quantum physics because at the tiniest levels in science, there are things that stop working the same way once they're observed. Like there are scientific phenomena that only perform in predictable ways when nobody's watching, and it's very tree falls in the woods kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I love that.
And it's mind-blowingly like contradictory, but hearing you talk about that journey, that's what it makes me think of.
Yeah.
Like, let it exist and stop trying to observe it, because the act of observing it or digging too deeply. I mean, of course, we all want to observe you singing, but consciousness of something and over consciousness can be dangerous.
Yes.
I remember taking an acting class as like 14, just a young teenager. And it was also designed for on camera. And for a while, when I was really young, like probably 10 or 11, I could cry on demand. And then in my acting class, it was like, we need you to cry here.
Yeah.
And I got really self-conscious in the same way. And I couldn't bring it in a scripted scene. I could do it in an improv scene.
Right.
I could get myself there, but with somebody else's words. This is why I'm not an actor anymore, is that being myself or my own interpretation version, my own words, was always my only way in, which makes me a good radio host and a good social media personality and a good like event host. Yeah. But memorizing lines was I could never speak in an authentic way with something that somebody else wrote.
Oh, interesting.
Anyway, and I remember my acting teacher, who is still in my life, all these years later, he said, so next time you cry in naturally, just pay attention to where that is in your body and like try to put a little pin there so you can come back to it in the scene.
Yeah.
I didn't cry in real life for like a year because every time I felt like I was going to cry, I was like,
pay attention.
Yep, pay attention to it, put a pin in it. Where is this feeling? And it would and I went numb.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't. And I lost this outlet that I needed in my real life to be able to get all of my teenage emotions out. And it was, I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that was, but I really identified with this idea of observation killing the talent.
Yeah. I still struggle with it. I'm almost out the other side completely. And it wasn't until, it manifested itself physically into just tension. And I would go to all the voice teachers and they would help me temporarily, not long term, because it was like the little Band-Aids until I found the voice teacher I'm working with now, who was the opposite of like just stripping away the habits that have developed and really getting back to me, what my natural sound is, what my natural voice is, not what people think it should be or not what I think it should be, not what my 25-year-old self was, but my 42-year-old self. Like, what is my voice today? And it's just a mind fuck.
Well, speaking of, I'm going to turn your mic off for a second so you can have a good cough.
Okay,
because I hear you clearing your throat. What'd you say?
I have a little bit of phlegm right there. Okay. Thank
you just let me know if you need me to.
Thanks.
If you need me to, because this is like, I love live radio because, sort of for the same reason that I'm obsessed with this show you have coming up, because nobody is perfect, right?
Yes,
and
100%.
And we spend so much, especially in the era of social media, and editing and Facetune and all this stuff, filters, feeling like everybody else has got it right in a way that we don't. Like, we see everybody else's highlight reel when we see our own like take after take after take.
Yes.
And so I purposely, people have been telling me for 10 years that I should be doing a podcast, and I just didn't want to do it unless I could do it as live radio.
Yeah.
And if I ever do go to a straight to tape, I'm still going to do it live to tape. Like, no edits, no cutting.
I love that.
Because I feel like it's important to be authentic even in our mistakes. Like, you saw me 90 seconds before we went to air.
Yes.
I rolled a chair over a cord, unplugging the entire board and all the equipment. And I was like, well, we're just going to have an interesting start to the show. And I know I was aware as I was reading my intro that I'd pre-written about you and all of your accomplishments. I was stumbling over words and I was like trying to sound like everything was okay. But I'm going to listen back to it and be like, yep, that's because I was panicking from the fact that we almost didn't have a live show. Anyway, I am so obsessed with the fact that you are doing a show where you literally can't practice for it.
Yeah.
So it, by definition, will not be perfect. You're jumping straight in and all the way into your deepest fear, which is to not be practiced and perfect. And you grabbed that fear by the throat and you were like, we're going to dance.
Yep. Yeah, I am. Shoshana Bean has produced this series in LA at the Standard Hotel in Hollywood called Standards at the Standard, which is, something that she created for herself, but then has opened it to and invited other artists. And it's a chance for you to sing songs that you've never sung before, or standards that shaped who you are today as an artist or vocalist. But it's meant to be off the cuff, and it's a very small room, and you can have a band, you can have whatever configuration you want. But I went to see one of her shows there, and she was calling me up on stage to sing with her, and I was like, nope, no, like I won't go. And she sang a heart song, and then she reminded me in the audience that we had said we were going to do this heart show like years and years ago, a heart tribute show. She's like, we got to do that. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then she goes, are you in? And I didn't want to say yes, but I was like, yes, I will. So we did this heart show, but I ended up doing my own set there with just me and a guitar in this tiny little room, and we went through the songs one time ahead of time, and I was petrified. And I honestly don't know if I've ever been more afraid for a show. And it was so much fun. I ended up having a blast. And so that's what I based this residency on, having the courage to expand myself in front of people, sing songs I've always wanted to sing but been afraid to. Oh, I can't sing that because I'm too old. Oh, I can't sing that because I don't sing that way. I can sing whatever I want. You know what I mean? I can sing whatever I want, and I'm going to do it, and you guys will come, and then we're going to have a section, because most of the songs I'm singing are from my album or pop covers. And then I was like, but they're going to want to hear musical theater songs, and I just want them to pick, because there's so many songs that I avoid because I'm like, I won't sound the same as I used to, or people will be disappointed, and I'm literally in the space of fuck it. Like, I'm just in that space of like, I'm in expansion. I just want to be better, and I want to grow, and I have to be willing to show those struggles and show that growth, because it's important. It's because you're right. In today's world of social media and perfection and Pro Tools and Auto-Tune and Melodyne and
What is Melodyne? I've never heard of it.
It's a pitch. It's also
pitch shifter.
For recording.
Do you know what?
My last album, which Revelation, we used no studio trickery. All of that is me, and I wanted it to be raw and not slick.
Yeah, well, guess who else didn't use, what is it called?
Melodyne. There's Melodyne and Auto-Tune.
Right. So you know who didn't use those? Heart.
Yes.
And
I know.
Like, I used to be a classic rock radio DJ.
Oh my gosh, I love this.
I know, isn't that crazy? And Heart came into the studio, and they were doing a sound check, and they did an acoustic version of These Dreams, and I was the only person in the room, and I was like crying my guts out. And it's still one of I was 23 at the time, or 24, and like I have this picture of me holding a heart-shaped guitar that they signed. I'm obsessed. So, but like, we wouldn't have fallen in love with Stevie Nicks if she'd been auto-tuned.
Yes.
So good on you. Yeah. But you know what this weirdly reminds me of? This whole conversation is your butt on the big screen in Rent. Because you were concerned about wanting to get the perfect angle,
of course,
and to get the the perfect shot, because it was going to be in perpetuity.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be something totally different and much more exposed than you expected, and much bigger on the big screen than you expected.
Yes.
And now you're so proud of it. And it's out there, and it's like, that's me, and that was me, and like, and I'm great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have an amazing butt. And you're also like, I feel like that's the weird parallel to what you're doing right now, is you're like, I'm going to let it all hang out.
Yes.
And if you love me, love me. Don't love some like perfectly planned angle.
Yeah.
If you love me at my profile, you better love me at my straight on butt shot.
I love that so much.
So I want to come to all of these. There are 4 of them, and I'm like, normally I would go to one, and I'd be like, I get the set list, and that's amazing, and I'll tell all my friends to go to the other ones.
Yeah.
But now I find out there's going to be a whole section that's going to be different every time.
Actually, the entire show will be different every time.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So even the songs from your album will be different each show?
Yep.
All right, let's give everybody the dates. Sunday, February 9th at 7 p.m. Those people listening live via DNR Studios, they can go to that one. If you're listening on the free podcast app, sorry, you missed it. On February 16th at 7 p.m., also a Sunday. On Sunday, February 23rd at 7 p.m., these are all at the Green Room 42 at the Yotel in New York City. And then for the final one, you switch to a Friday. Yeah. And that is also at 7 p.m. on February 28th.
Yes. But yeah, entirely different set list, entirely different guitar player. I'm having different guitar players every time, different set list, different special guests. No 2 shows will be the same.
Ooh, can you give us any hints on your special guests?
Well, I am not.
I bet Norbert would say yes after this interview.
You know, listen, I wanted to ask him, but I don't have his phone number. And I
have his phone number.
Let's call him.
I'm going to text him right now.
Let's call him because I will show you. It came up as an email. But I sent it anyway. And then I didn't go through, and I was like, I'm not going to hear from him. He doesn't remember me. That's not true. He does.
Is weird.
So I'm not going to announce my special guests until like maybe the day of.
Okay.
But they're
people you've worked with on the New York stage. Like, do you feel comfortable giving clues?
Yes, I will give clues.
Okay.
None of them I've worked with on the New York stage so far. One has won a Tony.
Okay.
One I have sung a duet in a different medium, not on stage. One has recently been on one of those live musicals.
Okay. Oh, God, geez, I'm trying to.
One is a woman who is starring with me in the upcoming, in the future.
Okay, which could mean several. There are at least 2 projects that I know of that have been announced.
And then two of them will be somebody that I have shared the stage with, but I haven't yet, but I will.
I don't really understand that last one, but
so right now I can say I haven't shared the stage with either one of them, but by the time they are coming, I will have.
Okay, well that, but like the full cast of Joseph was announced this morning.
Was it?
And it is an like
all-star. I mean,
the ensemble is all like
I didn't even
household names.
I know, it's insane, and I love how the brothers, like some are women, and they're they're mixing all of that up, which I love. So I'm excited for that concert. Very excited.
Oh my gosh. I don't think I'm going to be able to go because it's super sold out.
Yeah.
And because it's a benefit. I don't think they'll do press tickets.
Yeah.
But I am, oh my gosh.
I can't find this text I sent him, but.
Text to who?
Norbert.
Oh.
But it was over an email. It was like, I only had this random, I don't know. Whatever.
I literally just texted him.
I love you so much.
I was like, it's Laura. I'm sitting in the studio with Eden Espinosa. She wants to get in touch with you. What's the best way?
Amazing.
So we'll see if he responds.
Okay. He's like, who? Adele Dazeem?
At least.
Adele, is that you?
Oh my gosh. So how crazy in depth are you going to get in this request section? Like, are you hoping people will say defying gravity, or are you hoping people will be like, sing the Pick a Little Ladies from the music band?
I'm sure there is going to be, Wicked, Rent. I'm sure there's going to be those, but I hope that they stretch a little further and say things from, any other musical. There are things that I'm not going to know, and I'm going to pull out my iPad, and I might be able to just do like a verse and a chorus, and that's going to have to be enough. Like,
I had a boyfriend who was in a band. It was like one of the first really successful all a cappella group bands.
Amazing.
And he was the drummer. He was the
vocal percussionist. Yeah, I used to be in one of those.
Really?
At Disneyland. Yeah, I was in an a cappella group.
Shut up. What was it called?
We were called Groove 66.
Is there YouTube of this?
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sure. I don't know for sure. I maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I'm writing it down and I'm going to look it up and tweet it if I can find it. Groove 66.
Groove
it's also
66.
going in the keywords of this
okay.
interview. But they did a whole request section, and they could, in 5-part harmony plus a drummer, improvise any song.
Yeah, that's insane.
And then every once in a while, somebody would yell something out that was very, very new on the young pop charts, like Disney Channel, Disney radio kind of songs, and they didn't know, but they would make it up.
Oh my gosh.
And they'd be like, oh, the song's called whatever. And then somebody would just make up lyrics and somebody else would chime in with
I love that.
instrumentation, because they all did, like, one of them did a saxophone
Right.
sound, and one of them could do like electric guitars.
Yeah.
And the bassist would be like, doom, 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 doom. So I feel like if you don't know the song,
Yeah, I could
you
just
and your
wing
music
it.
director should just make something up.
Yeah, we might do that.
Are you recording these?
No, I don't think so.
Well, Green Room 42, I know, does encourage filming and
Yes.
social media.
Yeah.
So I'm confident that they'll
I'm
be
sure.
out. But it'll be nothing like being there.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm
I'm
going to be
excited.
traveling for a couple of these, and it just like kills me because I want to just be there for all of them. And I am going to really. So I'm going to spend the next couple of weeks just trying to think of things, not to stump you,
Yeah.
but stuff that you'll probably know, but probably haven't been asked to sing.
Yeah, I would.
Before.
I welcome it. Get your requests ready. And I think
Have you ever done Sondheim?
Yeah, I've done Merrily We Roll Along. I did that at the Huntington Theater in Boston, which love. But I mean, it's a dream of mine to play Dot or
I was going to say Sunday with
Voska.
Orchestra, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I just now I'm like, it might be a complete shit show, but
Yeah,
it'll
but
still be
you know
fun.
what's awesome is shit shows.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, like, that I feel like the world needs more shit
Yes,
shows.
I agree.
Especially from people who have these massive followings because of their natural talent that they were born with. I mean, I think that to somebody who wants to grow up and play Elphaba someday, they can hear that you were born with that voice, got no training, and could just do it. And they're like, oh, well, if that's what it takes to be Elphaba, I guess I'll never be Elphaba, right? When you are the one who can say that, you know?
Right.
But I think we all look to our heroes as perfect without trying. And we work so hard to appear effortless that sometimes the actual effort gets lost.
Right.
And people think, well, if I have to work for it, I guess I just wasn't meant to have that. You know,
Yeah.
if I was meant to do that, I'd be born that way.
Right.
And I'm like, show the flaws. As long as you're having fun.
Yeah.
You know, I think it would be more dangerous not dangerous, but like more risky if you were like, I'm setting out to do this perfectly. Like if you were in a pageant and it was messy, that's not the place for messy. But,
Yeah.
you know, I can say as a fellow woman in her 40s, it's so nice to just be like,
This is it.
Literally, take me or leave me.
Yeah.
Take me for what I am.
Yes.
Ooh. Are your guests going to be doing like requests too?
You mean
Like you're having special guests. Like what if I yell out, take me or leave?
if they're down to do,
Maybe you can do a two-parter.
maybe there might be someone in the audience who would sing it with me. I don't know. Well, you never know who's going to be there.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too.
Okay, we have a few minutes left, and I want to talk about Lempicka.
Yeah.
Matt Gould is my favorite composer.
How do you know Matt Gould?
I met him after a performance of Invisible Thread, the musical that is now known again as Witness Uganda. I saw it like 3 days before it closed at Second Stage.
Okay.
And I was in the center of the third row, and I cried the entire time.
Yep.
And apparently because of the way that particular theater seats are raked, I was exactly in eye line with the actors, and I was close enough that apparently they were all going backstage going, do you see that girl in the third row?
She
She's
okay?
I guess they weren't, is she okay in a bad way? They were like, she is in it.
Yeah.
And a bunch of them had followed me on Twitter for a while because I was one of the first people on Twitter to just talk about Broadway. My Twitter handle is literally Broadway Girl NYC.
Oh, okay.
And so I've been doing it for a long
Amazing.
time. And so they were like, oh my gosh, like this famous Twitterer is here. And they invited me backstage. And
Oh,
then when I got there,
amazing.
they were like, wait, that was you, the like super crying girl.
Yeah.
And bless Matt and Griffin's hearts, they stayed and they did a talk back after every single performance. And Michael Luoye, who's gone on to play Hamilton, like sat down next to me at the talk back, and like Nicolette Robinson gave me her phone number, and like we became friends as a result of that.
Yeah.
But I said to Matt and Griff, I mean, now I know them well enough to call them Griff.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, you're pals with them.
But like I said, I was like, this show, I need to be part of this. I don't have any money. I can't write you a check, but whatever it takes, my resources are your resources. This show is part of my destiny.
Wow.
And bless Matt's heart, he said, okay, let's have coffee tomorrow. And I canceled my plans for the following day so I could see the show again. Mm-hmm. And then we had coffee, and we have been friends ever since.
Oh, I love that.
And I'm not as connected to that production as I would like to be, but I will drop anything and move heaven and earth for Matt and for his projects.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really excited about Lempicka.
Me too.
What can you tell us about it? Other than it's coming to La Jolla in 2020.
It's coming to La Jolla, yes. We start rehearsals in early April. And, we were at Williamstown a couple years ago. And it's just, I had the same experience. I saw a concert version of, at the time it still was Witness Uganda, at Columbia, and I had to sit in that theater and by myself. I couldn't talk to anybody, and I was just sobbing. And I sent a Facebook message the next day. I looked up Matt Gould, and I sent him a Facebook message saying the exact same thing. Like, I have never been so moved by a piece of theater. I need to know you, and anything you need from me, you want to just like woodshed a new piece, I don't know, table reads, whatever. I just have to be a part of what you guys are doing because it's special. And then I went to send it, and I saw that he had sent me a message years before, like, I'm an up-and-coming composer and I'm such a fan. And I didn't answer, and I was mortified. And I try my best. Like, it wasn't intentional. I try my best to answer everybody.
Well, and on Facebook, it goes into a weird folder if you don't know the person.
Totally. So anyway, years later, here we are. They are some of my best friends. And Lempicka is an epic, beautiful beast. I'm honored to be playing her. It will be the most challenging role of my life. Rachel Chafkin is directing.
Only the greatest.
Yeah, no big deal.
Rachel Chafkin and Lee Silverman are like my ultimate theatrical idols.
They're both exquisite. And yeah, we have high hopes. We don't know what will happen after La Jolla, but we got rave reviews in Williamstown. The show has evolved quite a bit, and they're just still working very hard to find the right version, and we're getting there.
Well, if I know Matt, he will not let that show get corrupted by or like bastardized by anybody else's vision.
Yep.
He is going to make sure that no matter what happens with it, it is his.
Yes.
And all of yours.
Yes.
But I have ultimate faith that show will be exactly what it needs to be.
Yeah, me too.
And I care so much less about it like getting to Broadway than I do about it being a pure representation of the artist's intention.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what art should be. And Matt is a big reason that I think that way.
Absolutely.
He was the first person to say to me, Broadway is a marketplace, not an art form.
It's
and
true.
I was like, whoa.
It's true. Unfortunately, it is true, because there's just not, I mean, there is diversity and there is a lot of different types of shows now, but what is missing are the art pieces. You know what I mean? The Sondheim, the Sondheims who are writing that for the first time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, now Sondheim is Sondheim, but at the time it was like, there are no Sunday in the Park with Georges.
Well, I mean, we got Hamilton.
Yes.
And we got Great Comet. Like, I think Dave Malloy
Band's Visit.
Yeah.
Yes, we have a few of them, but like now they're just rare. It's like maybe every other season.
Well, and I think that sometimes it happens accidentally. And like the way that I like to see a show make it to Broadway is like how the revival of Spring Awakening got there, where it was done in this experimental way in a tiny theater in LA.
Yeah.
And then it moved to a bigger theater in LA. And then the buzz was so strong that
Which is how the first Spring Awakening started.
Yeah.
Off Broadway. Yeah.
Yeah, it started off Broadway. but it was more on like a Broadway track.
Right.
This one, it was way too early for a Broadway revival of Spring Awakening, but the production was so good, Broadway could not ignore it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel like I want more of that,
Same.
as opposed to people who sit down and go like, what can we write a check for that will guarantee a return on our funds?
Yeah.
I will say that, and I did assure Matt that me, when I call myself Broadway girl, I am using Broadway as a shorthand for the art form. And because I live in the middle of New York, I can, most of what I see is Broadway and off Broadway. But Matt Gould, y'all, like,
Pay attention.
yeah, pay attention.
Watch out for Lempicka.
And Eden Espinosa, pay attention.
It's happened so fast. But I'm like, it's over. Is it over?
Yeah.
That was really fast.
I know.
I like talking to you.
I like talking to you too. I told you when you walked in the room, I was like, I feel like I know you.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, what a stupid fangirl
No,
thing to
it's
say.
not. I promise.
But yeah, like that's why I wanted to do this show the way that I do it, because I wanted to be able to just sit down and like have it feel like we're having coffee. We have a bunch of mutual friends, and you're being very gracious to let me ask you questions about your career. But yeah, I'm really happy to have actually met you instead of just feeling like I know you. I can't wait to come and see you at the Green Room 42 for as many of these shows as I'm in town for. I'm clearing my calendar of everything except my travel.
Come on down.
And I'm going to come see you. Everybody follow Eden at Eden Espinosa. That's Espinosa with an S at Twitter and Instagram. And visit thegreenroom42.com for information on the upcoming shows. She's amazing. Seeing her live is a one-of-a-kind experience, and maybe you'll get to even talk to her and like tell her you feel like you know her.
Yes,
and get to know
please
her in
do.
real life. Come prepared with those requests too, and tweet me at Broadway Girl NYC if you have any ideas for what I should yell out when the moment comes. This has been Laura Heywood Interviews. Thanks, Eden.
Thank you.